Hello, 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 and welcome back to the channel. I am going live again. I have another topic that I wanted to speak on. As a matter of fact, I had put a post in the community tab at the end of May, kind of introducing the topic. It was something that I shared from another channel from I believe it's a Myrie Brown show. There was a post that he had placed. And I asked those of you who follow the channel if you thought this would be a good topic for us to speak on. And so that is exactly what I'm going to be doing today. As you see, don't believe the hype. Things are not always as they seem. We're going to be talking about some oppressive city ordinances against black women back in the day. Sometimes it's important to bring the truth to light. Is always important, but it's very important that we show things or highlight things that have a certain narrative attached to it. Now, I'm going to read for you the caption from the young man who originally posted this, and again, I was sharing it from his community tab. But it's very important to bring perspective to things. He says he'll just set this right here. City ordinances requiring black married women to work because most women work as domestics. It's important to understand history so we can accurately diagnose our relationships with black women. I'm going to bring that on the screen in just a moment here. I just want to make sure that everything is going okay with the live. And making sure everyone can hear me okay. Like I said, it's another very good topic for us to bring to the forefront, because it's unfortunate that a lot of people, I'm going to say people because it's males and females doing this, but a lot of so-called black people in general are wanting to omit things that happened in the past, and they want to jump right to the present. Hold on one second, you guys. Yes, I was recording. I'm sorry. I forgot to turn off my mic.
I'm sorry, baby. I figured it was turned off if you were. Next time.
Hold on one second. I'm doing a live, so give me one moment.
On a purchase.
Sorry about that, everyone. I told everyone I was going to be recording, but someone forgot. So it's my fault, though. I should have turned off the walkie-talkies. We keep those, working around the farm here. We want to be able to get a hold of one another if we need to. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. It's very important that when you look at the past, you tie it to the present. Because there are things that happened in the past that directly connects to what we see today. Very important that we understand this. And I say this even when talking about racial incidents. You see how today people want us to forget about the past and try to make it seem like things that happened in the past have absolutely nothing to do with today, with the condition of relationships and people today. Well, that's not true. You can't detach the past and say that it has nothing to do with what's going on now. So the same can be said for the relationships between black men and black women. The same can be said, because there's a narrative that a lot of younger, I'm going to say younger black men, because most of the older black fellas understand because they lived this stuff out, so they know what's going on. Although you do have some who are going to pretend like they don't know what the heck's going on. But for the most part, the older generation know. But you have this younger generation who are listening to the guys who don't want to own up to the past. They're listening to some of the older fellas from the past who don't want to be truthful about things. And so they are spreading these narratives on these platforms that they have on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all these other places, trying to make it appear as though the black woman you see today is what it's always been. They don't want to tell you how things led up to where they are. So I'm going to get into this post that was shared so y'all can get where I'm coming from on this particular broadcast, because there are so many connecting things to the past that I couldn't possibly cover it all in this broadcast here. So let me get to this post here. Okay, so again, this was something that was shared on the Myrie Brown show. And in reading, it says, city ordinances requiring black married women to work because most women worked as domestics. It is important to understand history so that we can accurately diagnose our relationships with black women. So this is what the brother's saying here. Okay, so this is a news article. It says Negro women to be put to work. A city ordinance soon will be passed requiring them to be regularly employed. Many complaints. So what I want y'all to understand is this is back in the day, y'all, where a lot of men were the ones who were working and the woman or the wife was taking care of the children. Okay. Watch as we get into this article. You all are going to see exactly how families were really divided. You see, it has nothing to do with some of the stuff that these brothers are saying these days. They want to place every charge, all the blame on black women. But let's look at how the system played a part in this portion of the dividing of the family, because there are many elements at play, many things at work, not just one thing. It says, regardless of whether they want to or have to, able-bodied Negro women in Greenville who are not regularly employed are to be put to work, put in jail, or fined heavily. I can't barely understand that. Okay. At its special meeting yesterday, that's what it says. Some of this wording, some of the writing is fuzzy, but it says at its special meeting yesterday afternoon, City Council discussed the situation with regard to this class of loafers. Listen at that, y'all. At some length. And it seemed that all members of council were agreed. I bet they were. They were agreed. I can't tell what that says. Okay. It says steps should be taken to compel them to engage in some useful occupation. It was decided that an ordinance similar to the one now in force requiring all able-bodied men to work at least 5 days per week should be passed with regard to these women. Such an ordinance will be prepared and voted on at the next regular meeting of council. Now notice, they had already said that it seemed that all council members were in agreement with this. So when they vote, you already know that it's going to pass. So let's continue on so we can bring some context to what I'm talking about. It says a number of complaints have come to members of council of Negro women who are not at work and refuse employment when it is offered them. The result being that it is exceedingly difficult for families who need cooks and laundresses, whatever that says, laundresses, okay, to get them. Wives of colored soldiers getting a monthly allowance from the government have a number of them declined to work on the ground that they can get along without working, according to the reports. So again, listen, these are colored women whose husbands are soldiers. And so they're getting a monthly allowance. Most of these women have children. So they are getting the monthly allowance because their husband is putting in the work, putting in the time, y'all. Okay. So they should be allowed to stay at home and raise their children, just like these other women. Listen, y'all know what other women they're talking about too. Listen, it says work that is offered to them, right? Work, and they refuse the employment when it is offered to them. And the result is this. The result is it is exceedingly difficult for families who need cooks and laundresses to get them. Now, I wonder who those people might be who need cooks for them. Anybody know? Can anybody take a guess as to who are those women who need cooks and laundresses? People to take care of stuff for them. So they are allowed to stay at home and take care of their children. But how dare you black women You Negro women, as they used to call us back then. How dare you stay at home to raise your children when work is being offered to you? Now, nobody is in shock here. Nobody is surprised. What I'm trying to do here is like what the brother was saying who originally posted this. I'm trying to help you all to understand that some of the narratives that our men are putting out here, some of these dudes are putting out here, that the black woman was just this, she was against the family, she was that, and she was this and this. They don't understand that that oppressive thing that happened towards them happened towards the black woman as well. So, let me finish off the article here. Let's finish this off. So again, no one is shocked nor surprised by this. Okay, so it says wives of colored soldiers getting a monthly allowance from the government have a number of them declined to work on the grounds that they can get along without working, according to reports. Others have flatly refused jobs without giving any reason whatever. The article says whatever. It should be whatsoever. While still others pretend that they are employed when, as a matter of fact, they derive a living from illegitimate means. So what do you mean illegitimate means? So we're talking about back in the day. What if some of these women were doing hair, but these people believe that it's illegitimate means because they say they are employed, but they say when they are in fact not, because they're deriving a living from illegitimate means? So were they doing people's hair? Were they providing a service in their own communities by doing hair or babysitting other people's children or maybe baking pies or something like that? It sounds like what they really wanted was for these Negro women to make themselves available to them by the employment that they offer, because these poor other women of other races, namely probably Caucasian women, they needed cooks and people to do their laundry. So how dare these colored women refuse to work for them? Now it goes on to say the proposed ordinance will require them all to carry a labor identification card showing that they are regularly and usefully employed, and the labor inspectors and police will be charged with the duty of rigidly enforcing the law. So let me break that part down for y'all. The proposed ordinance will require that you show them your papers, Negro. That's what that labor identification card is. Show them your proof that you are regularly and usefully employed. Now, let me tell you the usefully employed. Regularly means that you better be there 5 days a week, like their ordinance says. 5 days a week. And usefully employed means you can't be doing what you want to do. No doing hair. No baking and cleaning for your grandma. No taking care of your own children. No going to the church to clean up the church after service. Or being an extra cook in the church kitchen. Usefully employed means you better be of use to someone that they know who needs a cook or someone to do their laundry. That's what they mean when they say useful employment. Usefully employed. And the other part is, and the labor inspectors and police will be charged with the duty of rigidly enforcing the law. Rigidly means that they are going to take, this is going to be serious business to them. They are going to be serious about this. That they are going to enforce this, or you're going to pay the price if you don't do what you're supposed to do. Ain't that something, y'all? And so it amazes me how our own people have miscalculated history. Our own men sitting back talking about how the black woman didn't want to do this and she didn't want to do that. And they don't understand that there were traps laid. There was a stage set. There were ordinances put in place that forced certain things to happen the way that they wanted them to happen. And so you have also the narrative. There's a narrative that black women were putting black men out the house. I told y'all how I felt about that. Can't no woman put you out of your house. The men who say that kind of stuff, they were not husbands. If you were somebody's boyfriend laying up in her bed, and you were just a boyfriend or a baby daddy, your name wasn't on no lease, it wasn't on no deed. Those are the ones who saying that kind of stuff, because there was no such thing as putting no man out of his house. Can't no woman put no man out of his house. Now, I do understand there are situations where in domestic abuse, that can happen. So you got someone here saying that women chose the government over their husbands. No, that ain't what happened. We always get this kind of stuff. We always get the same type of narrative. That's what I'm talking about, brother. The one who put that in the post. This had nothing to do with women putting the man out. Now you sound crazy, Earth Man. The black woman wasn't just putting the man out of no. You can't put somebody out of a house that they own unless there's some domestic abuse. Okay. These were men who were not husbands. Okay. If you were living on a woman, in which a lot of men have done that. Do you want to talk about that, Earth Man and Judah Burns? You want to talk about that? How a lot of men were living on women, weren't paying no bills, wasn't helping out with anything? Do you want to talk about that? So I'm talking about back in the day. The particular article I shared was men who were in the military, whose wives were at home taking care of the children. Okay, I mentioned, and now the person that say I sound like a feminist, can you define feminist for me, please? Define it. Do you know what a feminist is? Okay, the original word. Because they called Harriet Tubman a feminist too. A lot of men, especially the ones like the ones in the chat here, some of you are very entertaining at this point because you don't want to look at true history. Here you have this brother, Amiri Brown, who is showing you and telling you how systems were put in place to try to come in and interrupt the black family, right? You don't want to hear that though. Those were married people they were talking about, right? But the cases where you're talking about the black woman put the man out of the house and she chose the government over her man. Okay, you all are talking about boyfriends. You're talking about men who didn't want to put a ring on a woman's finger, but you're pumping her full of babies. You're pumping her full of babies, but you don't want to marry her. And so she's like, okay, since you don't have a job, they're saying that you got to leave. Okay. And I have to take care of these children that you helped me create, but you don't want to help take care of. So the government is offering me this. So I'm going to take care of my children. This is what a lot of women are saying. And so BIack said, Miss Deborah is back to bashing black men again. Wow. I see brothers in here don't feel like they're being bashed. How you doing, Brother Raphael? He don't feel like he's being bashed because he's a brother who handles his business. Do you know what bashing is? It's not bashing a black man when you're talking about situations where they have been an error in the community. If you are talking about, now, one thing I don't agree with, I'm going to say this. I believe that it's bashing black men when you call them dusties. I don't agree with that. I don't like folk calling our men dusties because I know why they're saying it. I believe that is bashing black men. But if I'm talking about the hoopla that is happening in the hood, if I'm talking about, okay, thank you, Brother Carlos. He says brittle spirits. That's exactly what's going on. You have a brittle spirit if you can't understand where I'm coming from. I shared with you an article that is talking about how the women were forced by city ordinances to step away from their children so that white women could have servants. And so this made it so the children were not tended to properly in those particular cities. And the reason why this was even brought up, like the brother said, he wants to draw. Let me just read exactly what he said here. He says He says it's important to understand history so we can accurately diagnose our relationships with black women. This is what the brother Amiri Brown show said. So we can accurately describe the relationship. And so that whole thing about black women, I'm going back to that because we remember those times. That show Claudette or Claudine or whatever, that was a good example of what was happening. Women were put in between a rock and a hard place. They were put in between a rock. Okay, so you went to look up feminism. Okay, still, what is your definition of feminism? Because when you look up the real meaning of feminism, okay, oh, the original meaning, the state of being feminine. You know what's funny? Okay, it says the state of being feminine, right? Let me tell y'all what's so funny about that. The state of being feminine. A lot of these brothers who call women feminists, they also say that they're very masculine. But the definition that the brother just dropped here said that the definition of feminism is the state of being feminine. Oh my goodness, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. So which is it? Which is it? If it's the state of being feminine, why do y'all call women masculine? Because they have a job or because they decide to take care of themselves and they're handling their business? Huh? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And this whole thing about advocating for women on this channel, let me tell you what we have successfully covered over the years. Gardening, being a good mother, not being a bad mother. Don't be a loose butt woman. Don't go after these no good men. Be with a good man. Pray for your husband. Pray for our men. Grow food. Pay attention. Raise your children. Oh my goodness. This channel has covered it all. Up-to-date news. News from the past. Talking about Africa. Talking about our history. I've talked about all of those things. Originally, feminism was about women fighting for rights to simply exist in a man's world. And so when men call women feminists, I think it's funny because I say, look, they really don't know what feminism means. Harriet Tubman was branded as a feminist. Harriet Tubman. You should do some research on her to see what she did. She had to take a lead position in freeing her people because the men were too scared. I believe her husband was one of them. He was afraid to be free, or should I say, seek freedom. So I hope that gave you a better understanding, Mr. Burns, of what feminism originally meant. Women who didn't want to be treated like trash. And if it's something wrong with that, by golly gee. Okay. Brother Raphael says, many of these men lack understanding. He posts 1 Timothy 6:4. Knowing nothing, but is obsessed with disputes and arguments over words, from which come envy, strife, reveling, envy. Oh, suspicion. That's a good one, brother. That's a good one. Y'all need to go look that one up for those of you who want to say all of these things. Many also, instead of looking at the history of how we got to the place that we're in, both the men and the women, instead of looking at history and say, this is what happened. This was the roadblock that was placed. This was the stumbling block that was placed. This is the ditch that was dug. Instead of doing that, you just jump ahead to this modern day thing and you say that. Now this person says, community. Oh, not bad. You're just holding accountable for us. I'm not exactly sure what is meant by there, so I'm not going to expound on it. Okay, so T.G. Hamilton says, I guess Sojourner Truth was a feminist too, as she spoke at the 1851 Women's Rights Convention about the need to abolish slavery. So how dare these black women dare to speak at a women's right convention and ask for slavery to be abolished for black men and women? How dare that feminist open up her female mouth to try to get freedom for black men and women? Earthman or whatever says this woman is fake. Okay, what's fake? I have my own hair. I have my own eyes, my own skin color. Okay? What's fake about me? Mr. Earthman. This is my channel. I'm speaking on the things that I want to speak on. My husband knows that I speak on these things. It's amazing to me how people say things. They'll call you fake, and they can't tell you how you're fake. They'll call you a feminist, and they don't even know the real definition of feminist. They'll call you a Jezebel, and they don't even know anything about Jezebel. How she was a foreign woman who taught the men of the Most High Yah, or were telling the men of the Most High Yah, or the people of Yah, to worship her false gods. And she was having prophets killed. So you got people out here calling folk Jezebel, don't even know what the heck a Jezebel is and what the spirit entails. She was also a woman who was a ride or die woman. Let me tell y'all again, Jezebel was a woman who was a ride or die woman. She had a husband who was a wicked man, and she did everything she could to get that wicked man those wicked desires that he had. Ride or die. So Judah Burns, yeah, we are indoctrinated with the truth. You say me and my followers are indoctrinated? Yes, with the truth. What are you indoctrinated with, Judah Burns? You see how you keep saying stuff and you don't know what you're saying? You're not being specific. What are we indoctrinated with that you are opposed to? So anyway, back to Jezebel, for those of you who like to call women Jezebels. Most of the women you're calling Jezebel, I'm telling you, you don't even know anything about her. She was a wicked woman of another nation, married to a wicked black man, King Ahab, who had wicked desires, always pouting and coveting what other people had. And so because she was submissive to her husband, yes, Jezebel was submissive to her wicked husband. So when her wicked husband wanted something that he had no business having, she saw to it that he got it by killing someone, having a righteous man killed. Now, Jezebel ain't nice, but she was submissive to a wicked man. So I want folk to know and to understand when I talk about these things, my ultimate goal is to repair the breach in our relationships. Black and white have a problem because no one is rightly dividing the word of truth. They put these narratives out there in the Bible. They take the Bible and they change the narrative. And so we believe everything from a white perspective. And we don't understand that is our history book. And so when you believe things from a certain perspective, you will have a whited out truth. And many of our people run with it. They run with it. Our men and our women, we need to dig deeper and find what the truth is. We need to find what the truth is instead of doing what we do to one another. Find out why we are in this place that we're in and repair that. For me, I'm married to a so-called black man, an Israelite man. And for me, it is an honor to love a black man. A lot of sisters feel this way, but a lot of sisters are also tired of the lack of accountability for why we are in the position we're in. And when I say these things, no one is saying that the black woman as a whole is innocent. I've said on numerous occasions that within every group, battle axe, get lost, okay? Just get lost. Within every group, you're going to have people who are women who are submissive. So you have submissive women that are black, white, Asian. Also in every group, you're going to have women who are not submissive, black, white, Asian. Among men, you're going to have good men and men who aren't good men. You're going to have brute beasts, and then you're going to have men who handle their business as righteous men. You're going to have this. Never once have I painted black men as all being the same. Because if I did that, I would have to say that my husband and my sons and all the righteous men that I know are the same as the thug on the street. I would have to say that. And I'm not saying that. I've never said that. Neither have I likened every woman to our foremother, Sarah. There is no way that I would compare Sukihana or some of these female rappers to some of our ancestors. Ruth, Naomi, Sarah, Rachel. I would never compare some of these women you see today to those women. And so what I'm trying to say here, I'm trying to say exactly what the young man was saying who did this original post. Let me bring it back up again for those of you who are arriving late. Okay, this young man is from the Amiri Brown Show. He posted this 9 days ago. And he says, city ordinances requiring black married women to work because most women worked as domestics. And he says, it's important to understand history so we can accurately diagnose our relationships with black women. This is what the brother is saying, right? This is what he's saying. Accurately diagnose these relationships. And when you read through the article, it goes on and it makes it very clear that they felt like black women should not be at home simply just taking care of their family when their husbands were away at the military. They made it clear that if there was a woman who needed a servant, a woman who needed someone to wash her clothes, a woman who needed someone to take care of her household, you know we're talking about white women, right? They were basically saying that these black women need to be working for these women who need domestic help. And so they were putting laws in place to make it where you would go to jail, you would be fined, whatever necessary to cause you to get out of your house from raising your children to go and take care of their house. Because they were like, oh, these women can't find domestic servants. And how dare these black women stay at home when we need domestic work or domestic help. I agree with the brother 100%. We need to understand history before we keep running our mouths and trying to say the things that we're saying. We are trying to bring our people back together. But in order to do that, we must first identify the error. Of course, it starts at the top, y'all. The man is the head of the caboose of the train. And if the train gets derailed, everyone attached to it is going off the rails too. That's just the way it works. That's just the way it works. But just because we say the man is the head and the head is sick, that doesn't mean that the women are not a part of the unraveling of the black community. This is why you have these young women who are out here thugging about just as bad as some of the dudes sometimes, because somewhere we went off the tracks. We went off the tracks, y'all, because the head went off the tracks. And until the head realigns itself and gets back on the tracks and run this race with patience and faith, being led by his own head, the Most High, we are going to continue to be in this place that we're in. I'm just reading some of the comments here. He also has another article citing the truth of welfare and the black woman. There's another one that I do believe I've shared it or I saved it somewhere. There's quite a few that he's been posting that I've been meaning to get to. This is just the one that I had started, but I was having trouble with my internet. And so I had to put it on the back burner before I jumped to the other one. But he has some very interesting topics over there, y'all. And see, a lot of people think that black women subscribe to channels such as the Amiri Brown channel. They think, a lot of brothers think you ask people or have people to subscribe to those kind of channels because he is a defender of black women. That's not why. This is a male perspective in which some of you don't like the female perspective. So I'm pointing you to a male perspective in which I believe the brother is getting to the root causes of things. That's important. Now, if the root cause of something is a black female who has done something she has no business doing, that needs to be addressed. But when we're talking about certain things, it's very important to get that male perspective from someone who is saying, look, it's not like how you all are portraying it. Something happened to bring us to the place that we are now. And that's what he's doing. He's backtracking. He's saying, look, we're going to look at this from the very beginning. Why are we here? Why are we here? And most importantly, how do we repair the breach? That's what we need to do. How do we repair the breach? How do we fix what is wrong with us? Unfortunately, many of us think that repairing the breach. When I do those pauses, I'm looking at some of your comments here. Some of us think that repairing the breach means let's go marry somebody of another race. That's the thing. Let's just do that and cease to exist as a people. Let's just white ourselves out. That's what a lot of our people think that the fixing is. I agree with Diane J 100%. We have to work from both ends. Nicole Marie, we used to do that. And let me tell you what happened from time to time, as the Most High leads, we still do it. But I literally pray before my husband and I speak to any couple. We literally pray. And I'm going to tell you why. If a person doesn't really truly want to be helped, then you cannot help them. There have been situations where I have counseled women and I've given them the most sound biblical advice I can give based on a certain set of circumstances. And I'll just give a very vague example without using any names. But there have been times where a young woman have asked for my opinion on marrying someone. And she gave me all of the ins and outs and the ups and downs of someone who was not a righteous person. Explaining that there have been some verbal confrontations and different things that they're not in alignment with, right? And I said that you need to pray on this. Don't jump in too soon. Pray first. Don't leap. Pray. Seek the Most High. And so, after giving such advice, they did not proceed with caution. They went ahead into the situation. And less than a year later, they were running for their lives. So our big question is always, we pray first and we ask, what is the situation? Are you a person who really wants to be helped? Or are you just playing? Is this serious to you? Do you really want to be helped? Because we are only going to give you sound biblical advice. That's it. That is it. Sound biblical advice. And sometimes young women, they are very anxious to be married, so they will go into a situation. I've spoken with a number of young women who have entered into a terror zone or a disaster zone. And I feel certainly for these women. I've shared some testimonies over the years. One in particular was so very sad. Woman, she was actually married to the person when she was a Christian. They had been married for more than 15 years. And coming into what they call this truth, the first thing that a lot of men were introduced to was polygamy. And so he just bombarded his wife with the subject of polygamy. And before she even had a chance or an opportunity to process any of this, he was so enraged at his wife for not just instantly agreeing to it when all she wanted was an understanding of what was happening. All she wanted was an understanding of what was happening. And this man who had never laid a hand on his wife, like I said, I'm not using any names. This testimony was shared many years ago. But he threw something across the room at his wife and hit her in the face and it split her lip because she wasn't ready to jump into something religious that he had gotten into. And so we are just kind of in that position where we simply pray. Do you have a word for this couple, Father? And if he has a word, then we definitely share that word. We have to be willing to seek the Most High and not jump in. Don't let someone woo you with scriptures because they will do that. Don't let somebody quote a bunch of scriptures to you, but they are not honoring their head. You see? This brother say they want multiple wives and he can't get one. And so, listen, the scripture says, he that finds a good wife he that finds a wife finds a good thing, right? And so I do believe that it's very difficult in this day and hour for a man to find the Proverbs 31 woman or a woman to find a virtuous man as well. It's very difficult because a lot of people are into their own selves, into their own flesh, into their own desires, not willing to be led by their head, whether it's the husband being led by the Most High or the wife being led by a man. And now as for those who are women who are married and your husband is out of order, you take that to the Most High in prayer. Take it to him in prayer. What language was being spoken when Yahushua was born? And in many cases, I do believe polygamy is selfishness. I've seen examples where it was done properly. I have seen that. A lot of people in Africa, they still practice that culture, but they do it in a way that is unlike what we see happening here in the U.S. But I do see in many cases where it is someone is a sexual deviant. And I'm saying this, if this doesn't describe you and your situation, no need to come barking on my channel, okay? But there are situations that we have seen where people are sexual deviants. There's one channel where a guy has started calling himself God and all this stuff, Messiah. He has all these wives, and they actually talk about their deviant sexual behavior. So some of these people, it has nothing to do with the stuff that they claim it is, but they are sexual deviants, and they are trying to use an ancient biblical culture to justify their wickedness and their pernicious, debaucherous ways. And some women willingly go into this because they've been taught or tricked into believing that they can't do any better. Someone says that they was approached by one of them and who said she was selfish because she want her own man. How is that selfish? Those are the kinds of things that people will say to try to guilt you into something that wasn't meant for everyone. It was an ancient culture, y'all. And a lot of people practicing today, I didn't say all, but a lot of people practicing today got the wrong idea. As a matter of fact, I may do a separate broadcast at another time about this wickedness that is happening among so-called Hebrew Israelites, where you have these old men in their 50s and 60s getting teenage girls, men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s getting these young girls, 13, 14, 15. This is some wickedness. And in some cases, you have parents agreeing to this mess. There was a case, I believe, I forget what state it was in, but there was an arrest made in one of those situations where a mother gave her daughter to one of these dudes. I hate to even call them men, y'all. I feel that there's some wickedness that has been birthed in this so-called awakening that has nothing to do with the awakening. But these men have a sexual thirst that they never quenched with righteousness. They never were purged of this. They were never delivered from it. And so they try to use this newfound identity culture that they have to go after young girls. A lot of wickedness. Brother Kevin says he's staying single to avoid the chaos of relationships today. So, brother, we certainly understand that. There's a lot to pick through, but you know what, though? The Most High is able to lead you to the person that is for you. He is absolutely able to do that. Don't throw in the towel yet. But there are some telltale signs. Y'all. There's usually a lot of red flags that will show you that a person shouldn't be pursued, whether it's a man or a woman. So, I am actually done with this topic, family. I just wanted to... Okay, so let me read this comment real quick. Nicole says her mother at 21 married an older man who was 25 years older, and he molested all of her children. Oh my goodness. Ages 5 and 7 years old. That is really, really sad. You've got to be careful. You got to go look through a person's heart and soul with a magnifying glass, a spiritual magnifying glass. Someone says there's a well-known pastor who is in his 60s who recently married an 18-year-old church member, and her own father went along with it. Wow. Well, in that case, she is actually legal, but still, it's like 18 and 60? Oh, I don't know. 18 and 60. I don't know, family. I don't know about that one. But again, she's legal. At least it ain't 16 or 15 or 14 or 13, you know. Those are the cases that really bother me the most. When you have this big 50, 60-year-old man. Maya says she's 50 and she asks, is it too late for her to find a righteous man? No, absolutely not. I've seen situations where older couples have come together as well. It is not too late. This is a thing where you go before the Most High, seek ye first him and his righteousness, and all those things will be added. If that man is out there, the Most High will be the one to lead, because you certainly don't want to be the one making the choice or the judgment call. Okay, T.G. Hamilton says that same pastor met the young lady when she was a minor in the church-run school. I'm telling y'all, some of this stuff just sounds too tripped out to me. It just sounds a little bit too much. Too much? But especially among the so-called Hebrew Israelite culture, I'm seeing a lot of, situations that are just disgusting to me. It's just disgusting. Now, someone says Missouri is legislating a law to marry 12-year-olds. Hyssop Branch Hoon Rock is the profile name that posted this in the chat here. Now, that's ridiculous. Now, any parent who would allow their 12-year-old to be married to some big man, I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. Now, I know some things happened in our culture thousands of years ago, but our people's minds have devolved, you know, and gone backwards. It's gone backwards. Charles Kelly says old men and young women is creepy to him. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's too much, y'all. And so we know that there has to be something going on with a sexually deviant spirit. That is what is happening. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We need to understand history, y'all. Why things are the way they are now. If you rewind and you are realistic with what you are researching, you will get to the bottom of some things. You will understand that things are not as they seem. Things are not always as they seem. Oppressive city ordinances against black women is what we were talking about. All right, y'all. In the comment section, say what you have to say. Many of you in the chat have said what you had to say. Remember to keep it tight. And as always, keep it right. But until next time, I'm out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.